What's up, Schwartz Force? Welcome back to the channel. I apologize I haven't put a video out in the last week or so and I haven't been responding to comments. Bear with me, guys. Basically, just to share a little bit, I was on the fence about if I should do like a post or an announcement video, and I decided against it. I didn't want it to be like seeking attention or throwing a pity party. I did put a post on Instagram, so if you follow me there, you already know. But basically, just to share with you, my grandfather passed away on Monday this week, so I've been spending a lot of time with my family. Thank you again to everyone who sent comments and really encouraging words of love and support and thoughts and prayers. It really means a lot to me, and thank you. I'm good, I'm at peace. I've had a couple years to kind of prepare myself mentally and emotionally for this time. But the most difficult thing is just kind of been seeing my loved ones, parents, aunts and uncles, my sister, taking it hard as well. So, you know, that's just something that's delaying my production on new videos. What I'm reviewing today, it was already pre-recorded, so I just need to edit it. That's why I'm getting this out and kind of giving you a heads up. As far as future videos coming down the pipeline, I do want to at least let you know. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that. One video that I have coming up is the comparison of the Omega Seamaster Bond watch, which I had for a little bit of time. I no longer have it. A couple content creators, I apologize because I was like telling them, hey, can you send me these watches? I want to compare them with this Bond watch, and I haven't even put the video out. But I did record it while I had the Bond watch, you know, temporarily. So thank you to those guys. Triple shout out. So I got over at the Watch Chris channel. So Chris, thank you. He and Matt Stingray, he had the Sea Ghost, the titanium Sea Ghost from Hanboro and their possession, and it's Chris's watch, and Matt had it. And so I was like, hey, can you send that over? And he did, so thank you to both of them. Make sure you go show them some love. I'll keep them linked down below. And then also my buddy over at the Ali Homages channel, he had the Felita version of the, you know, homage of the Bond watch. And so I asked him, hey, can you ship that over? And he did. So I just wanted to do a quick shout out, thanks to them. So that video will be coming down the pipeline. And then I do also have a really cool watch I just received recently, and that is the SAR or Tactical Search and Rescue watch, and that is from Pierre over at the PD Watch Project, and then of course Eric with Rico's Watches podcast. Again, I'll link them down below as well. So that's their watch that they've kind of designed and put together. Limited edition run they're going to make, and that is benefiting the Veterans Watchmaker Initiative. So that's coming soon. And then I have this really cool luxury watch winder that I think you guys will really enjoy seeing up close and in detail. And it has a really cool story how I obtained that as well. So that's coming in the future. So please bear with me over about the next week or 2 weeks. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with the family, of course, and getting arrangements made. Now, that being said, today we are taking a look at this watch here. Now, out there we see a lot of homages of the Rolex Submariner, of course, but this is actually an homage of the Rolex Sea-Dweller. So I know a lot of you guys have asked me like, hey Dave, can you do some larger watches for some of us with bigger wrists? This one would definitely check that box. However, before we jump the gun and I turn the camera around, it is kind of this weird amalgamation of specs and materials on both ends of the spectrum. So as we go throughout this video and review, I want you guys to kind of be thinking of like, what do you think this watch cost and what would you pay for it? And then when we get to the end of the video, I'm going to reveal the cost of the watch, and you can comment down below what you thought and would you pay the price that this watch cost for it after seeing all the specs and details. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, so here we have our packaging. I'm gonna do a quick unboxing because there's just a few things I want to point out. So first off is you'll notice the branding on the website, which is, I purchased this on Amazon, and the way they have it listed is Huboler, Huboler, like Huboler. And look at the logo, even that, doesn't that look a little similar to the Hublot or Hublot, however you say it? However you choose to pronounce it. The reason that's so important or kind of funny to me is because once we unlift and unbox this, it switches from Hublot to Hanboro. It's like Han Solo, which I kind of thought was cool because of, you know, the whole Schwartz Force thing, but this is Hanboro. So I don't know if that is, yeah, what's up with that? Anyway, the packaging is not the greatest. You'll notice that this is kind of like a sticker, a piece of sticker covering the edge there. I mean, you can even like peel it off there. It's just not the greatest quality. It's a little offset, so it's not flush. It's just kind of like a cheap box. But when we open it up, you'll see we got a little protective foam there. We got our little instruction card manual on the inside, and then here's our watch. It's just on a simple holder, and we got our extra links down below. I have already sized this to my wrist. Let's start with measurements as we always do, guys. We're looking at a case diameter of 43 millimeters as this one measured out here. Now the case width, including the crown, you can see we have these really nice crown guards that are extending out, but with the crown, it's gonna come out to 47.5 millimeters. If we go lug to lug height, this is a larger watch, guys. So the lug to lug height on this bad boy is 52 millimeters. So if you have a smaller wrist, you're gonna wanna stay away from this one because it is very long in terms of the lug to lug width. And then the case thickness, chunky watch here, we're looking at 15 millimeters. If we include the crystal, that's not including the Cyclops. And then if we do the lug width on the bracelet, which we'll come back to the bracelet, but kind of interesting, it's an odd number, 21 millimeter, which I'm not really a fan of. The taper is going from 21 millimeters down to 16, which to me is a bit much. If you like the look of it, that's great. But for me, I would have rather had seen a 22 millimeter lug width and then taper down to 18 at the lowest. The reason I said is because since this is a larger watch, tapering down to 16 and having a smaller clasp like this, it just looks a little weird, a little misproportioned in my opinion. I just think that they could have done better with an 18 millimeter taper. That's just how I feel. We'll come back to the bracelet itself, but let's just talk about the specs on this watch. There's a lot of mixture here, pros and cons. It's kind of confusing. It's interesting because they choose certain materials in some areas and then cheap out in other areas, which I found kind of odd. So just to show you, the first kind of red flag at this price point for me was the case is not actually all stainless steel. This is a plated alloy case, and that's a bummer. It kind of reminds me of like the Benyar watches that we've seen in the past and you've seen on my channel. It looks nice, and as soon as I felt it, I knew, oh, this isn't real stainless steel on the case. And when I was actually taking the bracelet off of this watch, my spring bar tool had slipped and it actually scraped the inside of the lug. And I'll show you here, seeing that color there, that kind of bronzes colors. If you scratch stainless steel, it should stay silver in color like the steel. It's just going to obviously have a scratch put into it. But in this particular case, when I scratched it with that spring bar tool by mistake, it actually exposed the alloy metal underneath. You kind of see that copper brownish color. So that's a telltale sign that this is not all stainless steel. Now the case back most likely is full stainless steel, and the bracelet does actually feel like stainless steel. So I did want to point that out as well. And, you know, it's got this cheaper folded clasp. So again, I would have liked to have seen a milled clasp, but at this price point, it's kind of to be expected. You see a stamped clasp, but the metal, I mean, it's very cheap. I can bend it with my fingers and my bare hands. Now this clasp does have a safety clasp. As you see, it locks into place there. So that's nice. It's not branded, so it's sterile. And then you'll see we have 3 micro adjustments, so you can kind of fit this perfectly for your wrist. And then here you have the watch on my 7-inch wrist. So pretty chunky, you can see it sitting higher up there, and then that taper. Now, one thing that's weird about this clasp is because of the way that this tapered design is, you see how it's like sticking out, like it's not flush all the way. It leaves this really big gap, and it's kind of an eyesore. So when you turn your wrist, like you're always looking at this weird little gap down here with that clasp. So I'm not really a fan of that. I think I don't know what causes that, but it doesn't look good. It should be flush up against that bracelet, in my opinion. One of the pros, and really surprising to see at this price point, was a full ceramic bezel. You know, that's always nice on these homage pieces, and it's actually done really well. The quality of the bezel, it is a glossy black ceramic bezel, and you can feel the etching of each of the numbers and the stick indices applied here or etched into here feel really good. There is a lume pip applied at the 12 o'clock, but that triangle, you'll notice it's actually not completely centered. So you can see how it's a little offset. So just some QC issues there with that lume pip. It could have been moved a little more to the left and centered in perfectly. You know, it's kind of a bummer. It is a unidirectional. This is only a 60 click bezel, and we do have back play. It actually sounds okay. It doesn't feel terrible as far as the tactile feel. Now the bezel, I Don't know what material it is. It seems like it's either aluminum or, again, an alloy coated type of metal, but it's not a stainless steel bezel, even though it has the ceramic insert. So that's kind of weird to me to put a nice ceramic insert into a not so nice case and bezel. Yeah. Now, this watch does have a flat mineral crystal applied. I did test it with my diamond tester. It is also a mineral crystal exhibition case back. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Would have been nice to see sapphire crystal, but again, at this price point, I'm not too surprised that we have mineral. And the Cyclops is actually a 1.5 times, appears to be like a 1.5, maybe even 2x Cyclops, but look, it's crooked. If you look, it's not only off center, but it's also crooked. So when they applied this Cyclops, they didn't do a very good job of placing it directly over the date window. It's kind of a bummer because, I don't know, to me, I'm very OCD, so to see a mistake like that, it just gets to me every time. And again, these are issues that this particular watch has. Maybe I just got unlucky, and all the others that are sent out are, you know, you won't have these problems. But these are just minor things that I want to point out with the watch that I got. Now, I do actually like the glossy black enamel dial color. I think they did a really good job on that. It looks really nice in different lighting. Now, this watch does also have a Hulk variation in green dial, green bezel, and then there's also a two-tone option, but I went for the all black version as you see here. So we have those circular indices along the hours, and then of course our simple stick indices at 6 and 9, and then the Rolex style triangle indice at 12, and they are applied really nice, they look good, and there is lume applied to those as well. So it's actually done pretty well. We have branding here of Hanboro at 12 o'clock and then automatic indication. And of course we see that Sea-Dweller style with the red text. This time it just says diving, and it is actually raised and high gloss. And then we have a flat printing of 200 meters water resistance indication there just at 6 o'clock. We'll get back to that because I don't think this watch is actually 200 meters water resistant, and I'll tell you more why here in a second. Now the handset, of course, is the traditional Rolex style hands. However, look at how short they are. I think because they're using a handset for a Submariner homage, because of the larger dial and case size, the hour hand is very short, and then the minute hand does not extend all the way out to the chapter ring. I think it would have been smarter and looked better to have done a larger handset, also maybe a little bit thicker because they seem kind of thin when comparing them to the thickness of the indices at 6 and 9. Just my opinion and kind of observation there. And then of course we do have lume applied to the 3 hands, including the lollipop second hand. And the lume on here is pretty good. The handset is not as bright as the hour markers. And same thing, the lume pip on the bezel is not as bright. So those will wear faster. But the lume that's on the hour markers is actually pretty decent and will stay lit for, I'd probably guess about an hour or so. And then it starts to dim out very fast. In the first few minutes, it looks great. I'll show you a lume shot here, but you know, nothing to really write home about. And again, at this price point, not really expecting super luminova and crazy lume. So we have the Huboler logo there at the crown, which again, doesn't really match up with the other branding, so it's kind of strange to me. And it is just a simple push-pull crown. I don't know what movement is being used in this watch, but it does allow for hacking and hand winding, and the movement of the hour and minute hand is actually done pretty well. So it feels nice. It's not kind of clunky. It's nice and smooth all the way through. And my biggest pro for this movement, whatever movement's being used in here, check out the date change. It actually starts, look how fast that happened. I don't know if you caught that. So it starts like around 11:35 and then it clicks over by like 11:42. So even though they didn't adjust it straight for midnight, it happens within just a few minutes. So watch again. So we'll get to 11 o'clock. You see it starting to change like right before 11:35. Bam. Flips right over. So to have a short date change wheel like that is actually really impressive. I just wish they had adjusted it for, of course, right at midnight. That would have been even better. But yeah, I was actually kind of impressed with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the back of the case and talk about this movement. So interestingly enough, even though it is an exhibition case back, I mean, the movement rotor is not really decorated all that much. There's no branding. It kind of looks like a sandblasted finish, and then we see some brushing there on the edge of the rotor. So I'm not really sure what this movement is, but if you're familiar with what's being used in this watch, please definitely drop a comment down below and share your knowledge with us. Would love to hear it. But let's look again. So we see water resistant of only 30 meters on the case back. So that's what has me think, and only a push-pull crown. This is probably not a 200-meter dive watch like we see listed on the dial. I think it's probably only actually 30 meters of water resistance. And then again, stainless steel indication I think is for the case back, but not the case as we've verified. And then we see branding instead of Hanboro, it's Huboler again. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge between the two. Okay, so question of the day. How would you say this brand? Huboler or Huboler? Also, do you say Hublot like Hublot or Hublot? Let me know, drop me a comment. I definitely want to hear what you guys say. So finally, let's go ahead and get this thing on the time graph and see what kind of accuracy we're getting out of this movement. And it's kind of all over the place. It's ranging +2 seconds a day, and then it drops to -7, -11 seconds a day. The amplitude has kind of fluctuated, and it was as high as 300 and then dropped down to 256. Right now it's hovering at 270. It is nice to see there's no beat error. That's definitely good. And again, 21,600 vibrations per hour. But the swings in the, with it just being stationary like this in this position to be kind of fluctuating that much, I think it's probably safe to say you're between -4 and -10 seconds per day. Not terrible numbers coming out of here, just not consistent numbers. But amplitude and the beat error look really good. So there you go. So let's summarize and talk price, guys, as I show you again here on my 7-inch wrist. There's a couple pros and then a couple cons with this watch. Now, currently you can get this on Amazon for $69.99. They also have a Hulk version and a two-tone version available, but you probably already know what I'm gonna say about this watch for that price point. Pros of it, of course, the larger size case. It's gonna be good for my guys out there with larger wrists, so that is definitely a pro. I do like that it has a ceramic bezel insert. It's done very nicely, so that was pretty cool to see. And then the movement, allowing for hacking is always good, but that date change at within just a couple minutes for it to switch over like that, very nice, very kind of Rolex-ish, Swiss watch type of date change that you see that happens promptly, not set over a couple of hours. So I thought that was really cool. However, all of those pros are greatly outshadowed by the cons. The main one being that this watch is not a full stainless steel case. That's the biggest bummer. Unknown water resistance rating. Mineral glass, you have a ceramic bezel insert, but then you don't have sapphire crystal. So that was kind of a bummer. It would have been nice to see sapphire with ceramic. I think that would have gone really far for this watch. And then of course the proportions being wrong with the bracelet and just the overall quality control issues. We have the lume pip, and then of course the Cyclops misaligned. The bracelet, while it is stainless steel, is kind of cheap feeling with the clasp, and then of course hollowed in links. So I think that just all of those kind of issues, while they're small on their own, add up to where I would say for your money, I would stick with some of the cheaper homages that are out there of the Submariner, something like from Pagani Design or Tevise. Even if you're spending a little bit more money, you're gonna get a lot more watch. So those are just my thoughts here on the Huboler Hanboro watch. But of course, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Drop me a comment down below. What did you think of this watch, and is it something that you would purchase? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps out my channel, guys. And I know a lot of you guys are watching my content that have not subscribed to the channel, so please consider joining the Schwartz Force. You can do so by tapping my logo over here. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, check these out. I know you'll really enjoy them. As always, I look forward to seeing you guys at the next one. Until then, may the Schwartz be with you. Take care.